is the 31st century, and mankind is once again at war. The battlefields of the future are dominated by huge robotic war machines known as battlemechs.
In June of 3029, the 41st Avalon Husssars arrived on the planet of David. By the end of July, the battle was over. The 9th Dirians were pushed back to their dropships. When the Dirians arrived on David, they had ferried both themselves and the Brian's Legion mercenaries. Additionally, the Dirians had brought with them extra dropships to enforce a heavy blockade of the system. Until the Husssars had arrived in their entirety, the blockade had held. Unlike the regulars, the Husssars did not have an abundance of dropships. They focused instead on making planetfall, and this worked against them. With so much cargo space available to the survivors, the 9th Regulars were able to quickly load and blast off. The few space assets scrambled against them were unable to keep the invaders from escaping, and once close enough to their jump ships, age-old rules of war meant that naval units chasing them were forced to turn back. The war for David had come to an end. The conflict on David was a tiny spark in the massive fire that was the Fourth Secession War. Still, its effects would ripple through for decades to come. The Defenders. The 41st Avalon Husssars' return to David spelled the end of the conflict. The Husssars would remain on David until they were relieved by the Deneb Light Horses in 3039. With their recall came new opportunity for the 41st. Their units were partially upgraded with newly invented or rediscovered technology, and their soldiers retrained. Marshal Graham retired, replaced by Hupman General Ivan Terkov. The 41st was then sent to relieve the Killer Bees mercenary company on the Steiner world of planting. There, in July of 3050, the 41st was contacted by Sakan Garth Raddick of Clan Wolf leading Beta Galaxy. The Sakan challenged the 41st to battle, bidding his Silver Kashik, Supernova Command, and Trinary Battle of the 341st Assault Cluster. Expecting a typical Inner-Sphere defense, Sakan Riddick was shocked when the 41st abandoned their strong points. Chasing them, he fell into ambush after ambush. Taking the Tri-Cities of Dantron, Sontor, and Balix became a slog as the agro-industrial complexes became a wolf graveyard. Every time the clanners engaged their harassers, they would disengage and flee, vanishing into carefully hidden bases and airstrips, only to re-emerge and attack the clanners as they tried to seize the cities or send out patrols to hunt down the harassers. In the end, Sakan Riddick abandoned the cities, throwing his forces into the hills. When the harassers tried to withdraw, Sakan Riddick called down the 3rd battle cluster, blocking their escape. Outnumbered and heavily outclassed by the clan Omnimex, the 41st was wiped out. The Sakan had won, claiming the agro world of planting for Clan Wolf, but had done so only by breaking his bid. The 41st Avalon Husssars would not be forgotten. Years later, the aging Kenny Graham pushed for the unit to be rebuilt. He would achieve his dream when the 41st would rise from the dead, reconstituted at full regimental strength, including 2 full companies of new Inner-Sphere Omnimex. When asked what he thought of the new Omnimex, Marshal Graham commented, "No mech can match the destructive power of the new Omnimex, but destructive capability is not everything. Nothing so far envisioned by modern engineers can rival the unmatched versatility of the Lamb. Given the choice, I would trade every one of those Omnimex for my lances of lambs. I am saddened that we devote so much effort to just imitating the clanners." Kenny Graham would push for further research into the Lamb, going so far as to write a full modern battle plan for the now extinct unit in his handbook, Strategic Victory through the Tactical Use of the Land-Air Mech. While the AFFS dismissed Marshall Graham's lamb-based theory, ironically, the word of Blake would study the book in great detail. The 12th Deneb Light Calvary would remain on David until the end of 3029, before being reassigned to Galatea III. The mineral-rich Terran-like Galatea would serve the 12th well in rebuilding their mauled unit. Captain Halls would be summoned to New Avalon, and he would be rewarded for his heroic actions in the David conflict. Captain Halls would be knighted and given the opportunity to join the Davian Brigade of Guards. At first, Sir Hall's reputation would carry him well in the elite bodyguard unit, but his aggressive, borderline reckless nature clashed with the Guards. As a native of the outlying world of Scat, the Guards also viewed him as backward and unrefined. Soon after Hans Davian's attention was drawn away, Sir Halls was quietly transferred out of the prestigious Guard. Sir Halls took this rejection badly. Turning to drinking, it was not long before the former hero of David was penniless in New Avalon dive bars. In one such seedy establishment, the captain was approached by Lieutenant Colonel Jeremiah Steiner Davian. The colonel would offer Halls a command in his 101st New Avalon Regulars, a unit that did not officially exist. At first, Halls rejected the offer. The 101st had the reputation of a penal unit made up of rejects, criminals, and other misfits. As his finances became more desperate, and at Jeremiah Steiner Davian's persistence, he agreed to visit the unit. To his surprise, the stories of the 101st seemed only half true. While the unit was made up of misfits and criminals, Halls was surprised to find a crack Special Forces unit skilled and specializing in black operations and behind enemy line deployments. The unit had managed to, quote, retrieve his former Phoenix Hawk, even upgrading it with experimental and newly rediscovered advanced technology. Hard drinking and hard fighting, Halls quickly found the unit more to his liking than the polished Guard. Officially, Sir Halls would retire to a small farm on David. Unofficially, a mysterious Major Halls would lead 2 companies of some of the Federated Suns' worst into orbit around Huntress and Stratamecti. Marshal Haveson would be reassigned to the Davian-Steiner Cultural Exchange. The Marshal and a few of his hand-selected officers would be sent to the Lyran Commonwealth to begin the long process of integrating the 2 militaries into one cohesive fighting force. Marshal Haveson selected the up-and-coming Lieutenant General Jeffrey Neese to take command of the 12th Deneb Light Calvary. Captain Chryson was offered a position on the Marshal's staff and to become an instructor. Captain Chryson gladly accepted, and the 2 were sent to set up a training facility on the Lyran world of Apollo. The Lyrans considered the world secure. The once capital of the Rim World's republic was remote and sported a pair of ancient fortresses built to the standards of the Star League Castle Bryan. To further boost defenses, the Lyrans hired the Gravewalkers Mercenaries 2nd Regiment for added defense. For nearly a decade, Marshal Haveson and Captain Chryson would run a small but very effective officer training academy. In May of 3050, Clan Jade Falcon arrived, with Khan Elias Creechel leading his Turkian Keshik and Gamma Galaxy. Marshal Haveson and now Colonel Chryson would lead his academy students and the Apollo militia from Alpha Castle, while Colonel Jason Merwin would command his 2nd Gravewalkers from Beta Castle. At first, the battle went well. The Falcon landings were hampered by bad weather, the monsoon season rains turning their landing zones into swamps, while the Gravewalkers and Apollo militia coordinated in hit-and-run attacks. As the rain slowed and the Falcons landed, the hit-and-run attacks were slowly pushed back, but the Falcons lacked the strength to assault the ancient fortresses. Searching for a solution, Khan Critchel's lore master presented one. Searching through the SLDF archives, the lore master found detailed schematics of Marshal Haveson's fortress, deploying over 200 elementals into a secret entrance. The handful of infantry guards and staff officers were no match for the genetically enhanced battle armor-equipped Falcons. Marshal Haveson joined his personal bodyguard, picking up a laser rifle and firing on the approaching armored monsters. The hastily constructed barricades of desks and cabinets were no match for the Elemental's SRM launchers. Once the situation was fully understood, Colonel Chryson attempted to lead a breakout to join the Gravewalkers. Charging out of the fortress, the mech forces were met with hellish fire from the clan mechs. Chryson's Atlas led the charge. As the gates opened, Chryson lined up his upgraded weapons on an Uller, alpha striking the much smaller mech, destroying it in a single salvo. Fanning out behind him, his fellow mech warriors began trying to make their way toward the second fortress. Chryson was next challenged by a Thor in a running firefight. Chryson's slower Atlas unable to disengage, but too powerful for the Thor pilot to get in close. Finally, thinking Chryson's heavily damaged mech would be an easy target, the clan warrior moved in. The injured Chryson took the opportunity to charge the clan mech. Unprepared for the savage physical attack, the massive assault mech smashed into the clan mech at full speed, slamming it into the ground and stomping the mech's advanced XL engine. Ironically, the simplicity of Chryson's standard engine made the Atlas difficult to bring down. Chryson, unable to outrun the lighter clan mechs chasing him, turned to face the approaching man-o'-war. The missiles and cluster rounds finally finding the Atlas's engine, gyro, and head, bringing the assault mech down. Falcon elementals cut their way into the fallen Atlas's head, but found Chryson already dead from his injuries. The Falcons surrounded the final fortress, but Marshal Haveson managed to warn the Gravewalkers, and they used explosives to seal the secret entrances used by the Falcons. As the weeks wore on and Falcon casualties grew, Khan Creechel grew frustrated with the mercenaries hiding in their fortress. Finally, he ordered his 305th Assault Cluster to reconfigure their mechs to fire Arrow 4s. For hours, the Falcons focused all their bombardment on a single section of the fortification, eventually breaking it open. Trying to avoid the annihilation of Marshal Haveson's command, the Gravewalker mercenaries surrendered to the Falcons. After hearing of their former commander's death, the 12th Deneb Light Calvary looked forward to attacking clan forces. Initially considered to be part of the attack on Tigris, the 12th was passed over to continue its defense of Scott. Sadly, the 12th would not get the chance to avenge their fallen former commander. In 3053, Davian units attacked the Draconis Combine without orders. The Combine responded by attacking Addicts. The 12th Deneb was quickly deployed to repel these attacks. During the Fedcom Civil War, the 12th would again attack their old enemies, the Draconis Combine, seizing the important world of Al-Niar from the 24th Dirian Regulars. The 24th Dirian Regulars used kamikaze attacks, attempting to do as much damage to the Light Cavalry as they could. The human wave attacks proved ineffective, and what little damage was done to the 12th was replenished by the Combine's own equipment. For a year, the 12th would hold the capital of Al-Niar province. Finally, a combined force of the 15th Dirian Regulars, supported by the 10th and 12th Ghost Regiments, were able to push the 12th Deneb off the planet. Chased by the 15th Dirians and the 10th Ghosts, the 12th Deneb fell back to Addicts, meeting up with the Davian Assault Guards, this time driving off the Draconis forces. After the Civil War, the 12th was upgraded to a full RCT by adding several regiments of infantry and armor. They were then assigned to the Robinson Combat Training Center on Cassius to serve as the opposition force for the cadets. The 12th Deneb was still on Cassius when the Jihad fell on the galaxy. Taking advantage of the chaos, the 12th Ghost Regiment would hunt down the Light Cavalry in an attempt to finish what they had started on Al-Niar. The Ghosts would land on the planet, but things would quickly go badly for both forces. During the fighting around the city of Jubulus, a chemical plant was inadvertently destroyed, releasing deadly gas into the atmosphere. The 12th Deneb Light Calvary evacuated the civilian population, while the 12th Ghosts pulled back to their dropships. Unwilling to risk contamination, the 12th Ghosts began to withdraw their ground forces while leaving the aerospace assets to contest the system. The 12th Ghost's fear of contamination would prove prophetic less than 2 years later. The conflict on David was, in the end, just a tiny spark in the firestorm of the Fourth Secession War. The planet itself had seen its master change many times over the centuries. From an independent world to being annexed by the Draconis Combine, seized by the Federated Suns just to be reconquered by the Draconis Combine, to be taken back by the Federated Suns, to again be lost almost 3 centuries later. David in many ways represented the inner sphere as a whole, constantly fought over, but in cosmic terms never held for long. The system has known independence, as well as a member of the Draconis Combine, the Federated Suns, the Federated Commonwealth, the Republic of the Sphere, just to be seized back by the Caridans. War will again come to David. The only question is when and by whom. Hello, this is Adam with Dream Made Productions. This part's unscripted. I just wanted to thank you all very much for tuning in each week, or at least as close to each week as I could get, in this first running of the head-to-head campaign system. I hope you've enjoyed watching the battle reports as much as I've enjoyed testing the system, playing the games, and making these videos for you. Next week, we'll be returning to the battle reps that you've all come to expect. At some point, I'll be posting one more behind-the-scenes video for the campaign in the Battle for David that will explain a little bit more about how the campaign worked and giving you a little bit more of a behind-the-scenes peek at how the numbers come together. I'm not exactly sure when that video will come out, but it will be sometime soon. For at least the next few weeks, and probably the next few months, we'll just be running pickup games and not ones using the campaign system. Don't worry, I'll still have narratives for each game, but they won't really be connected in any way, or if they are, they won't be using a campaign system. In the meantime, I'll be rewriting the campaign system, trying to fix some of the errors that we ran into, exploits that we found, and other issues that came up that I just couldn't figure out how to solve when the campaign itself was going on. Once that's done, I'll somehow be making at least a basic version of the rules available for everyone to download and use in their BattleTech games, and eventually a full finished version of the system will be up on my Patreon once I get that figured out. I hope you've enjoyed these videos, and if you would like to help the channel, please subscribe, like, and share the videos. Leave a comment. If you'd like to help us financially, please see the links in the description below. Every little bit helps, and we're trying to expand our capabilities with new equipment. Thank you again for all your kind words and support, and as always, I hope you enjoy the battle reps that are to come.